Let's go straight over to James Melville. James, apologies for that, but, you know, no man waits for Kamala Harris. Let's talk about our own domestic problems. Extraordinary scenes today. The Labour government has scrapped the Bibby Stockholm Barge. It will decommission it in January, begging the question, what happens to the 400 migrants on board, all of them young men? We're also hearing that Yvette Cooper is alleging that the Tories blew £700 million on the Rwanda scheme. Don't know where she got that number from. It's about twice what I've heard they got rid of. And it would have cost £10 billion to operate the Rwanda system. So she's plucking numbers out of the air, saying the Tories are terrible and we're going to make it a lot better. But what she's doing now is basically telling 70,000 migrants, asylum seekers who were told that their applications probably would fail, that they will now succeed. The Tories say that figure could be as high as 90,000. We heard last week that 92,000 migrants who were earmarked for deportation to Rwanda will now be staying. So really, essentially, the Tories are saying this, and you have to think, well, is there something what they're saying? What Labour's policy seems to be is to just legalise all of these illegal migrants who are already here and just say nothing to see here. That's not a solution to the crisis, is it?
It makes the problem even worse. You know, when you've got, you know, net migration over 3 years, pretty close to 2 million, and Labour are coming up with non-solutions, you're going to have the cause and effect of that over the next few years. Now, this is a serious issue that needs to have serious debate and not people being framed as xenophobic and bigots for pointing out this problem. You know, there is huge benefits of a lot of aspects of immigration, but not what is happening right now in a number of different measures. Obviously, what's happening in the Channel, what's happening with the cost to taxpayers of so-called solutions, not just by the Tories, but now it seems Labour as well, non-solutions. And then also what's going on with the hotels. It's ongoing, and £7-8 million, you know, spent per day on this sort of thing as well. So the public are fed up with it. They're already looking at Labour saying, well, actually, these aren't solutions, you're going to worsen the problem. And the two defining issues, I think, of this Labour government in the first year, 2 years, will be addressing the migrant problem and also net zero as well. And it looks like they're making the problem a lot worse for themselves. So I'm concerned about this, and I think communities right across Britain are concerned about the direction of travel with Labour in this.
See, what they're saying, James, is that so with these 70,000 migrants, we've apparently got 120,000 migrants waiting for asylum applications to be processed. Labour just merely seem to be saying we're going to really speed that up, and frankly we're going to make it pretty easy to grant these people leave to stay, the right to stay. Now they're then saying, well, the reason for this is it will save £7.7 billion in accommodation costs. Well, fair enough. You've got them all in hotels and accommodation centres and on this barge. So you kick them all out. You make them legal. You say, well, you can stay. Kick them all out. Then you haven't got an accommodation problem. You're not spending £7.7 billion, but you've got, you know, 200,000 migrants just wandering around the country, and more coming because the message is out. Labour are, as the migrant smugglers, the people smugglers are calling them, Keir Starmer is the friendly one. Come one, come all, you will be made welcome. They're coming across 2,000 in the last week. And there will be more and more and more. This message Labour are sending to the migrants over there on the north coast, or more to the point to the people smugglers, is you're back in business, come to Britain, you'll be allowed to stay. This is a recipe for disaster.
It is. It's not solving the problem. It isn't sustainable. It's going to worsen the problem. It seems to me that they're almost kicking the problem into the long grass. And sort of opening up entries are almost a solution, and sort of maybe worrying about the figures in terms of net migration in the future. But there's a bigger impact with this as well. The country is really struggling at the moment, trying to go through a cost of living crisis. We've got failing infrastructures and public services that badly need investment. We actually need a proper return on investment on taxpayer spend. But this is going to put even more strain on that. And we need to have these type of discussions to say what is required in terms of immigration within employment structure and what is sustainable within our infrastructures and public services. And we need to have that conversation right now. But it seems the last government, obviously, but the current government are too scared to address these home truths. And the problem's only going to get worse. And so when the numbers stack up in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and so on, Labour are going to be accountable for this. Because at the moment, all they're doing effectively is worsening the problem. And we don't have the infrastructure. And also another valid point that's been forgotten about is the communities are having no say about this. Yeah. The public want solutions to this. And at the moment, their voices seem to be completely disregarded.
Yeah, I totally understand that a new political government, a new Labour government, would want to, get rid of a lot of Tory policies. But when they, Yvette Cooper in particular, Keir as well, the money they wasted on this Rwanda scheme is an absolute disgrace. I don't know where she got the 700 million from. I heard 350 tops, but that's still a lot of money to pour down the drain. But arguably, whilst I accept a new government will want a fresh political direction, arguably the people wasting that money are the Labour government that just came in and said, we don't care that you've spent hundreds of millions of pounds, we're axing this scheme. We don't care that there's nowhere for these 400 migrants, for example, on the Bibby Stockholm Barge to go. That's an optic. We're going to close the Bibby Stockholm down. These are the people who effectively are wasting taxpayers' money because they're taking the Tory investment and just spaffing it straight down the drain.
Completely agree. It's like they're coming up with what they consider a solution, almost like, as you said, the Tories have done something, so they have to do something different. But they're creating a new set of problems, and ultimately problems that will lead to more taxpayer spend and more pressure on a lot of our resources, infrastructures and public services. There has to be a proper structured policy on this, and we're getting either one extreme or another, different sets of solutions, but ultimately solutions that are causing more problems.
Yeah, it's like they're firing a sort of blunderbuss gun at the wall. Let's have a quick watch of Nigel Farage, who was addressing his favourite issue, the migrant crisis, in the Commons today.
We will not stop the boats, even if we send a handful to Rwanda. We will not stop the boats by attempting to smash the criminal gangs. We've been doing that to the drugs industry in Britain year after year, decade after decade, with no success whatsoever. Yeah. The financial rewards for smuggling people across the English Channel can now net a gang 2 to 3 million euros a week. Whatever prison sentences or penalties are put upon them, there will always be people volunteering.
So, James, we haven't got long, but what he's talking about there is my oft-stated opinion that you'll never solve the migrant crisis by smashing the people smuggling gangs. You've got to stop the migrants. Labour have mischaracterised the whole problem. Very quickly.
Yeah, well, I think Labour are too afraid to properly address it because they don't want to be smeared as somehow being, everything's framed these days as being, far right, but actually getting on top of the migrant crisis. It's not far right. People are fed up with a number of different issues in this country, including the lack of government structure and legacy policy on this issue. And the reason the last government, and Labour are in danger of doing the same thing, the reason problems exist in this country and key issues is because governments don't get on top of them. And therefore, the problem escalates because of bad solutions, and also the division escalates as well. Wouldn't it be great if we had a grown-up discussion on immigration and many other topics that people didn't use lazy tropes like, they're bigoted because they might express questions about immigration policy. That has to stop. I think people are sick of that. This is a valid concern. that millions of people in the country are completely correct to express their concern. Sadly, our politicians aren't listening to our communities.
Brilliantly said, James. I'll get you on later in the week. I want to talk about our friend Ed Miliband again, who is really becoming the enemy of Middle England and indeed communities all over the country. James Melville there.